Welcome to another Just Blazor programming video, and today I'm going to talk about Blazor WASM Authentication and Authorization, at least the one that you get from Microsoft off the bat, and that I'm not a big fan of it. So I'm sure that my title was a little clickbaity, as it usually is, but I will actually show you, how going through the process of installing Blazor WASM and Blazor WebAssembly and the authentication authorization that it will give you, and why you should not use it. Because honestly, I don't think it's worth it. Like, let's get into it. Well, as you can see, we're gonna start our Blazor WebAssembly project as we do every other project, and we're gonna test out what you get off the bat. So just like the other video that had the simple authentication video, if you haven't seen it, check it out. That one was a more decent way of using authentication and authorization off the bat without you doing much work. You don't have to go out of your way to do too much in order to add the authorization authentication. In this case, I don't think it's worth it, and I think it is far more worth to find another way of installing your authentication authorization scheme for Blazor WebAssembly. But we're going to go through this process because I did it for the Blazor server, and it's only fair that I do it for here. So we go to create our project, pick WebAssembly, and yeah, we're just going to call this Blazor WASM Authentication. Simple. That's fine. And you're going to choose an authentication type. Notice that we are missing one type. The other one, the Blazor server came with, I think, the Microsoft account one, the Windows platform one. And this one does not. This one you have individual accounts and the Microsoft Identity Platform, aka the one that you use your SQL database on, and the one that you can use the OAuth OIDC stuff on. So make sure that your ASP.NET Core is hosted. And let's go. So I was actually working on the other authentication video to give you probably a better way to go through the policies, claims, and all that stuff technically for Blazor server, and by extension you could do that with any other with Blazor WebAssembly as well. But in this case, I saw how Blazor WebAssembly, what it gives you off the bat, and I didn't like it. I'm going to explain why. But before I get into why, let's just actually set up everything so that you actually know how to set this up. We'll get into this later, and this is actually the main reason why I don't like it. You can probably guess why if you read this. But before we read that, or we get into that, let us first go to the app settings. Yeah, app settings JSON. So the first thing you want to do is actually replace this with whatever your server name for your SQL database is. Well, here I already had them set up, but you're gonna follow me. So we're gonna go to the SQL Server Management Studio. Make sure you grab whatever that server name is. Go over here and replace the server name with it. Replace this with that. Like, copy it. Should be fine. And if you are unsure, go to the other one. So basically, I'm just going to copy paste what I have here. Yeah, this is the other one. This is my Blazor server version, and we had a different database. So we're going to create a new database now. So I just want to make sure that I copy and pasted it correctly. But let's go create our database. It would go to where your server is, add new database. We're going to call it Blazor Auth WASM. Copy that name. Okay. You don't have to do anything else because this will do basically the exact same thing that the Blazor server one did, which is it will create this through identity server instead of the identity API that it installed. The only thing is, but you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. You're not gonna see much of a difference when you actually run it. Oh yeah, make sure you remove this big name here. Careful not to remove that equal sign. Just slip it in there. Perfect. So now we have our server name and we have our database name. That's step one. Step two, do we need anything else? Probably not. Probably not. We'll add it later. We'll add the stuff I want to add later. But for now, go to where it says pages and have the nav menu prepared. We're gonna make some changes here in a second, but we're just gonna run this and see what happens. So obviously, there are other ways to implement authentication authorization with WebAssembly, just like in Blazor server. And in fact, I do encourage you to use other ways because Blazor WebAssembly more closely follows what you're used to if you're used to creating web applications with JavaScript. So you can do it in a very similar way. It's specifically using JWT tokens, JSON Web Tokens. But we'll see that now. So we want to register our user here, and it's going to give us an error, but that's okay. Because if you know that if you have the error, it'll basically ask you to press a button in order to do all the work for you and set up all the tables you want. But that isn't the issue I have with it, obviously. I like easy stuff like this. Even though there are some caveats to doing it that way, this is just how to get it set up really quickly. And then you can make your changes later if you want to, or not even do this if you don't feel like it. But this is what Microsoft gives you. You apply the migrations here once you fail the check. And we refresh the page. And now in order to make sure that everything loaded, go to your tables here and see that you have new tables. There was nothing in there because we didn't add anything, but now we have new tables because it just added all the tables in thanks to us connecting our database to this application. So I'm going to use my email test@test.com, and I need to set up a password that has all the criteria. If you want to change how that works, you can go and change the password thing. Oh no, I have to register first. Okay, register it. The password here is password123 exclamation point. It has to be long enough. It has to be good enough. Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure that we did that already. Okay, so the next thing you gotta do is actually activate this dude. By that I mean you're locked out right now. So you have to be unlocked out. In order to do that, you could do it through editing, or you could do it like the way I'm doing it, which is writing the actual query here. I'm more used to doing it this way. You don't have to do it this way. But when you do, when you're a full stack developer, you're basically doing something like this a lot. So it just comes natural to you. We're done with that. Check that. Where is it? Not gonna enable 0. I don't think you gotta change anything else. If not, then the other problem is gonna be the email confirmed. I don't think that it does check for that. Are you kidding me? Well, since I probably messed up the password, I'm not gonna try it again. We're gonna do another one. Same thing, password 3. And now we have to go back here. And if you update it like this, it'll update anything that's in here. So lock out. This isn't a SQL course, so you don't gotta worry about that. So hopefully this works. If not, then the issue is that email confirmed. Yeah, it's probably. Yep. Sorry, guys. Even I forget sometimes. Yep. Yeah. So for whatever reason, email confirmed is also part of that. That it's something that it checks. You can change that probably in the code, but if you don't want to go through the trouble, you can just change it here to make sure that your email confirmed and your lockouts are set to 0, and then you don't have to waste as much time as I did. So now we have our email here, and essentially we have a WebAssembly app with an email. So how do we? So it's basically going to do the same thing. We're going to use the authorization, the authorized view, in order to make sure that the authorization authentication thing works. We are already authenticated. We exist. Then it recognizes that we exist. So now let's add the authorization piece real quick. Because the meat and potatoes of this is not really this. It's more to go into why you don't want to use it. But I want to be thorough. So let's go do it. And in order to do that, I'm going to go to my last project because we're just going to copy paste this nav menu here. This nav menu, what's going to happen here is we're going to add the authorized view and just have it authorized. We're not going to use roles, policies, or anything. We're just going to check to make sure that we are authenticated. And then we're going to add a standard user both as a nav link and also as a razor page. So let's copy paste that. Oh, I guess you won't. I guess if you haven't done this, do it. So give me the views. But if not, then you could just copy this. Like you're just making an extra nav link within an authorized view component and using the authorized component that goes within that, and then you put your nav in there. So you don't have to like follow this if you don't want to. I'm just adding this in here so that we can ensure, so you know, that everything's authorized. I already know firsthand that it is, but let's be thorough and just add a standard user page to it, and then add the URI that reads it. Razor component. We're going to call it standard user, or at least I'm going to call it that. And my nav link has been already set to that, so all you got to do is add it here, all lowercase. And then that means that when we are authenticated, we can access it, and when we're not authenticated, we can't access. That's the basic test here. Again, I'm not going to go into policies, roles, and stuff like that here. I'm going to do that in a different video. And if you don't know what they are, and you don't know, you know, off the top of your head what they basically are, I suggest you go look at the video that I made and check it out so you could get that foundational knowledge. I'm plugging in order to make sure there's something that, you know, you're listening to while we load our Blazor WASM stuff here, because it's really okay. So it just took a long time to get to this point. So let's continue. I don't know exactly what's going on with this, why it's so slow compared to like Blazor server. Maybe it's just the build that I have. I don't know. All right, so after a little bit of time, we're finally logged in as my test user, and we have access to this new nav link. Ta-da! If I was not the test user, I'm gonna log out now. I can't even see it. So there you go. So we have been authenticated in. We have checked the authorization, and now this is the time where I go over why you shouldn't be using this specific one. You should not be using this off the bat because it is using, go to the README. I'm sure that some of you might already know. All right, here. This is an open source product with a reciprocal license agreement. If you plan to use Duende Identity Server in production, this may require a licensing fee. This is unacceptable. Normally, I don't like projects that basically have something in there that you cannot use in production because you need to pay for it. And just to be fair, let's go over what they're talking about here. Over here, this is the identity server. This is Duende. And this is how they use, this is how they create authentication authorization within WebAssembly. This is the package that Microsoft has decided to add into this. For the default identity server, no, not the identity server, for the default identity authentication stuff. But it honestly looks pretty good. I don't know if it's because of this that the reason my project is kind of slow. I don't know for sure, because I know that in the Blazor server we were not using this. We were using Microsoft's identity API instead. But here we are forced to kind of use this. Now, this is not the only option you have when it comes to WebAssembly. This is just one among many options, and is the option that for whatever reason Microsoft has decided to add into Blazor WebAssembly's libraries and stuff. But it looks like what you get from here, you get a lot. You get both the identity server support that you could where you can make identity authentication. So you saw me add users into it into a database and then pulling data from the database. This allows you to do that. This also gives you the ability to do a lot of stuff. Let me check that right here. Like OpenID Connect, OAuth 2, JSON Web Token stuff. Like you could do a lot of stuff with this off the bat. And it does look pretty good. And it says that all the code is in GitHub. It's just that here's the problem. It's only free, like to get the full package, it's only free for the community edition. And if you want to use this in a production level environment, you need the enterprise edition. In order to get the enterprise edition, you gotta buy it. 1,500 for 5 client applications. Yum yum yum. 5,000 for 15. 12,000 you get unlimited. Oh man, you're raking in the money. This is a great deal. As you can see, this is. Look at that. You want to do this? Be my guest. You know, you have 1,500 bucks to throw. Go for it, man. I personally do not like using software like this, especially for that price. Like maybe it is the best. Let's pretend that it is. Let's pretend it's the best authentication authorization thing you can use, and you know, it's worth the money, right? I would still rather use something that I could replace and not be out 1,500 bucks, and make sure that I could use it everywhere. Sure, I could use it for my own personal project for free, and for a limited what does it say here? Uh Community edition allows hosting in your infrastructure, including your cloud, is not for scenarios where you redistribute identity server or build software for third parties. That is a big problem. If you're a contractor and you need to build software for third parties, well, you're SOL on this one. You need the redistribution license or the standard license. Either way, I wouldn't use this. That's why I didn't really go into too much into it, because you're gonna be changing to something else. And I was looking at, you know, what could we change it to? What could we replace this with that can give us some functionality, some authentication authorization? So the first place you got to go to is GitHub, or the awesome repo thing, and it points to one of these things here. I have not used this myself, but this is just an example that you could replace the authentication authorization in both Blazor Server and WebAssembly. However, I do feel that the Blazor Server one that it brings off the bat is far better, even though you could manipulate it as all you want, and the way you would apply the roles, policies, and the claims are basically the same between the two. It's just getting into the authentication piece where you actually grab the data is different. And then the authorization piece, it could change, but I don't think so. I think in this case, it kind of keeps it. So I need to look at an example, but this is just one example that you could use if you dig into it more. But there are others out there that exist as well. And once I get to the Blazor WASM, I'll be building one that is not using the Duende software. And this is the reason why I don't like it. Like, that is the reason why I don't like the Duende, whatever Microsoft forces you to use in this case. If I wish that they didn't do this. I wish they gave you the same ability of using something that they made that you could use anywhere, instead of having something that you have to worry about maybe paying or maybe violating some license somewhere. So it has less to do with the actual functionality and more to do with the fact that look at that. Not for me. And I'll try to find a better, maybe not necessarily a better way, because this looks like it's pretty good. Looks like they put a lot of work in there, and you have, you know, it supports stuff. So if a company wants to use it and they want to pay the price for it, then hey, whatever, that's not you. But if it's you, maybe it's better learning other libraries that are open source or are free or whatever. That's my suggestion. And I think that's it. You saw how we built this Blazor authorization authentication. It was very, very, very easy. It's very similar to how we built the Blazor server. But I wouldn't use it. So unfortunately, we have to leave it at that. And be careful out there when you do build this, because some people don't read these things when they build it, even though you really should. That's why that README was the first thing that came up when we built this. Where's that README? Oh, that's the wrong one. Here it is. This README is the very first thing that came up when we built this from scratch. And the reason why was for that. Think about that. Anyways, be careful out there, and I'll be sure to get into the other authentication authorization videos as as we move forward, go into the future. I just wanted to get the WebAssembly one out of the way, at least the simple one. And unless you want to pay the price, you want to pay those $1,500, probably stay away from this and look for an open source library somewhere else. Anyways, anywho, anyhow, I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. Like, subscribe, comment all over it. Tell me whatever you want to tell me. You know what I mean. Just